welcome to the Karura Community Call. I'm Robin Whitney. I'm Director of Marketing here at Acala and Karura. I'll let Betty and Brian introduce themselves as well. I'll kick it over to Betty.
Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. Betty here, co-founder of Acala and Karura. Good to see so many people here today. Kick off 2022.
Hi,
And
everyone.
Brian,
This is Brian. Yeah, I'm also a co-founder of Acala and Karura.
Great. Well, we're happy to be here and start our first call for the year. Plenty to catch up on. Just a little housekeeping. If you head over to the Community Call Whiteboard channel, that's where we'll be posting any sort of links or any images or visuals that accompany what we're speaking about. I also already posted the agenda for today's call, and we'll be sure to have some community Q&A generally at the end. But if you have a burning question, you can feel free to hop over to the Community Call chat channel. It's open now, and we have a few folks from Karura's team in there to answer live, and we'll be sure to answer as well. When we open up the Q&A, please do make a request. You could raise your hand, and we will invite you to stage. And with that said, I think we're good to jump into our first item on the agenda. We have an open runtime upgrade that we can share the link for. Brian, do you want to give us some more context there?
Yeah, sure. So we just did a runtime upgrade yesterday, but this is a rather minor upgrade. Nothing really exciting in this new change. It's just some improvements we fixed. Some minor issues on the XCM that in certain conditions, when you're transferring too little money, some fee charging logic will just, because there's not enough money to charge for the fees, it will just burn all this money instead of sending it to the treasury. So this minor issue, as well as update the substrate version, also fix a few other issues. Nothing really exciting in this particular Karura upgrades. But we release it just to keep the runtime version in sync with the upcoming Acala upgrades.
Sounds good. So everything is as it should be there. And, I think we could just quickly move along to the upcoming LKSM changes that we could expect. Betty, Brian, either of you want to give us some details there?
So firstly, let me share this link here. So we did this over probably the holiday period without making a big fuss of it. But it's quite a significant product improvement. This is not the end of it. As XCM become more mature, and then also receiving more user feedback. So this is one of the sort of major improvements that we made for liquid staking. There's, I think, one more to come for the on-chain changes. But mainly the motivation behind this, one is we now can lift the staking cap. We've been pretty quiet and low-key about the LKSM in most cases, mostly because we have a technical sort of staking cap that we need to follow. But now that staking cap is lifted, basically theoretically we can support quite a large number of KSM being staked through Karura. So that's pretty cool. And then the second thing is, because of this cross-chain nature and also the XCM for where it is, it's always been quite a technical challenge for us to make the redeem part of the process very automatic and also very predictable. So through some product rethinking and redesign, the one step that we move towards is making the redeem part more predictable. So we used to have an algorithm to actually match the maintain and the redeem part of it. But of course, that ended up, some people will redeem instantly, while others waiting for a bit too long than they can, than they expected. So there's, probably some people are happy, and then some people are not so happy based on that design. Even though we try to optimize, ended up probably the average redeem time is probably better that way. However, for the overall, I guess, welfare, this new version that we already put out, I guess, in average makes everybody happier. So this new upgrade then will have a maximum of 7 days and 6 hours. That's taking into account the crushing part of it for the redemption to happen. This, I think the predictability is going to help many users to plan how they want to manage their assets. Once they redeem, maybe they want to do other liquidity provision or go on to support crowd loan or do other things. So this is good. And then the second thing that we change is the old model kind of have this minting fee as well as a redemption fee, and then you charge for different things that you do. So now both of them are sort of removed and replaced by a uniformed commission of 1%, and this is on top of the rewards. So none of your principal, basically the original KSM that you put in, is going to be touched. So part of the earnings that you have going into the Karura Treasury. I think, and then from the front end though, there are also a couple of things that you may notice is previously, when you go redeem instantly, it goes directly to the pool, right? So basically, the fee is based on the pool's slippage and also the fees of the pool. And then for the new version, because of this on-chain change for the redemption process, now it also looks into the minting queue as well, and then it can be redeemed from there with a lot lower fees. But of course, if that pool is not guaranteed, so it will still fall back into redeeming the DOT token from the DEX pool. So that is the sort of the new process. And then, so what that means for users, I guess, minting is as smooth as what it was before, but for redemption, you get two options. You get redeeming instantly, and then you can expect maximum of 7 days and 6 hours and no more to get your token back. Or you could just redeem normally, which, just wait for the protocol to finish the redemption for you normally. Otherwise, if you want to redeem instantly, then it just checks the minting pool as well as goes to the pool, but it will guarantee that you're going to get your KSM back right away. And then the next version that we're going to upgrade is to unify this on-chain mechanism. So for anyone who's building a front end, I know some developers want to build their own front end for LKSM and make it sort of a product out of its own, and then provide a service. And then we're going to make the on-chain calls more friendly, I guess, so that every front end is going to offer uniform services from then on. So this includes Poker Wallet and also other sort of developers also developing their own front end for LKSM as well. So so that's that. And then so this is going to be quite cool to push forward. So once we got all of this sort of UX sorted out, there probably will be another wave of pushing for this protocol, and then maybe some new rewards in the coming period to support more adoption of LKSM, because many people didn't realize why they should do this, right? Because many of you will see the KSM and DOT has one big challenge is, even though you have exciting activities as crowd loans, right? You lock up a lot of tokens in crowd loan and then in staking. But how come the market or the sentiment or the expectation doesn't reflect all of these lockups? There's one huge reason in this bootstrapping the economy of the entire Web3. This is like Polkadot and KSM, right? One thing that's missing in the link is derivatives. If your token stops and go into a black hole, which is like normal staking and normal crowd loan, your token stops there. It doesn't generate further value out of that 100 token that's locked up in that crowd loan or staking, right? However, in a real economy, everything actually drives from its derivative value. Like today, if we purely live on the real, if we're not like in the gold backing age anymore, but if we were only living in the gold that were on Earth, we're probably still at the farming age, agriculture age, rather than having, working on computers and a lot of like cool spaceship phones and new technology, right? So this is one of the challenges. I don't know if everyone actually sees that challenge for sort of the baseline dot design is all the tokens are locked up. So those 100 dot locked in crowd loan or staking no longer can generate more value and also power more applications and protocols and also ecosystem development after that point. And this is like one of the huge reason why we have to push liquid staking and LKSM, because that 100 KSM lock in Kusama now generates 100 equivalent of LKSM. And then this LKSM token can then be used for other protocols to continue to build, right? We're at an early stage of this ecosystem, right? So once there's protocols built on top, then you can see this derivative, the value of derivatives, and so they can generate and also encourage more builders to come and more protocols to be launched. Same for crowd loan, right? And this is also why later stage we realized this challenge and implemented the LC dot for Polkadot for the Acala launch. And now, you've got a whole bunch of 24 million actually dot floating around on Acala network that can power more applications and more innovations, right? So I think this is a very, very important for early adopters to realize it's not just another place for you to stake. This is actually a place that you're not only getting a similar or even higher return for your staking, sure, you get a few percentage higher staking yield, but more importantly, those values can now be transferred or added onto other ecosystem products to generate more value for the ecosystem, and then the whole economy can continue to roll and flow and attract more, I guess, utility and also development in the network and the whole ecosystem. So this is very, very important. There's no reason why you don't use LKSM, I guess. But of course, for early adopters, thank you very much for trying out the product for such a long time. And then we now finally at a stage that UX has been improved. And then there's a few more updates now so that we can go for the big push for LKSM and then subsequently LDOT as well. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. Back to you, Robin.
Amazing. I think, yeah, what really speaks to me there is it's not just another place to stake. It's really kind of, as you explained, a cornerstone of the ecosystem, allowing for this liquidity to flow to multiple components and extensions of Karura and Acala as well. So looking forward to seeing how the community feels about the upgrade. And if you've been using it and have questions, feel free to stick your question over in the community call chat or raise your hand and we'll bring you to stage a little later. Before we move on to the next item, I do want to share a link to our Karura app user guide. This is just a general wiki for getting started with Karura. There may be some new users here who've not yet engaged with Karura dApps, and it's especially great features like liquid staking. So if you're curious and you need some assistance in bringing KSM over to Karura, or just seeing how to utilize and interface with the protocols in general, just check out wiki.karura.app, and you can find some great guides. Okay, so with that, let's head over to something I think that a lot of folks in the community have been waiting for, news on the RMRK listing. I know the team's been working on this project for this week. Betty, do you want to share some details?
No, I won't. Mainly,
Ooh.
this is more of just sharing this thing is happening. I think RMRK team deserve their own slot to come and talk to share their story and talk to everybody here. So maybe we might invite them to have another AMA and talk a little bit more detail of their plan. But I can share like some high level stuff is. RMRK originally listed on StateMine, and then they during this process, they are going to move their entire token onto Karura for good. So the token gonna permanently live on Karura, and then develop from there. So that's really cool to see the ecosystem projects come along together, that they have a place to, to be born, which is on the token chain. And then once they're born and then they want to grow and have a life, they come to a DeFi chain like Karura, and then we can do a lot of stuff together. And of course, the first and foremost is list the RMRK token on a DEX. And then I think Bruno and their team is come up with a plan for which pairs they intend to list for, and also what those incentives are like, and things like that. So those haven't been completely released on the forum, I believe. So I'll just say that much, and then everybody should anticipate something to happen fairly soon.
I did share the referendum that's live on the Karura subsquare. So I believe that voting is open still for that, and it's has a lot of support. But there are some details on what we might be able to expect for these pairs, and we'll be updating with any sort of incentives or news very soon. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have EVM Plus update. Brian, maybe you can give a little context there.
Yes, so the work is currently just moving progress along on the roadmaps. So we have managed to deploy all the EVM related stack on the Mandala testnet. If you dig into our wiki page, you'll find all the details required to access the EVM plus stack and deploy the smart contracts there. We haven't published that or not make it super easily accessible, just mainly because if you are not developers, that doesn't get you much interesting things to play with. Well, all you get is just you can use MetaMask to transfer your SAA token on the Mandala, which is not that exciting. So we're holding off making those big announcements on the Mandala testnet. We're currently working with a bunch of teams deploying the smart contracts on our Mandala testnet. We want to make sure once they have something ready to be available to be tested, to be able to share with everyone, and then we can make additional announcements to allow you guys just give a play, not just using MetaMask to send tokens, but as well as try some real dApps build within Mandala, or with leveraging some unique features of our EVM Plus. Then there will be much more interesting things because also we have some incompatibility with the Ethereum EVM. So there will be some additional limitations, as well as some things just work slightly differently. So we also need some time to build additional user documents to let everyone knows what can you guys expect. So it's basically doing well. We are releasing it to our smart contract project partners, and then we should be able to once they are ready with the integration as well as testing. Once they are comfortable, everything works, and then we will be able to make additional announcements to let everyone to try the EVM Plus. You could be able to integrate with those smart contracts using MetaMask or any other Ethereum wallet, as well as using the Polkadot extension. So we definitely want to solve one of the issues there. Acala is layer 1 networks. I don't really want you guys or everyone to install 2 extensions to fully leverage all the features of the network. So there's also add additional work to us as well as staff developers to supporting both the MetaMask and the Polkadot extension.
We do have a question, Brian. When will the EVM Plus be deployed on Karura? I guess, I'm sure the timeline is in flux, but do we have a better idea?
Yeah, obviously, as soon as it's ready, but you guys probably there's probably not a certified answers. So there's well, for as any big software developments, the time is very hard to provide accurate estimation. But I can tell you the steps will be happening, so you would have better ideas to come up with your own estimations on the dates. So currently our phase is that the most of the code is ready, where there are some still additional work required to support, for example, Etherscan and other block explorer. So there's some additional work required, but the main functionality in terms of deploying smart contracts, involves smart contracts, MetaMask integration, as well as Polkadot.js extension integration, they are ready. So we're on the phase they're working with other smart contract developers to help them to get the smart contract deployed on our testnet. And once that is ready, then we will, obviously, the guys know those are ready and to be tested. So we'll probably do 1 week or 1 or 2 weeks extensive testing on the Mandala testnet to verify everything is actually working as expected. Also to see, because there are some incapabilities, so there are some limitations. We'll have to see. We're making some trade-offs between usability as well as the long-term sustainability.
Yeah, I think for the bridge, though, certainly well within Q1, we'll be able to deploy that. And then we'll gradually open up the EVM for other deployments. Yeah.
Yeah, so the launching will be also a phased launching. So once things are ready, we will deploy things we will enable the EVM Plus on Karura. Well, the code is already there. It's just a matter of open the smart contract deployments. So it will also be a phased launching. So on the first phase, we'll be launching a bunch of smart contracts we know for sure it already works fully compatible with EVM Plus. They will be including the bridge contracts. The Betty had give you a snippet, as well as potentially a few other smart contracts. And then the second phase will be a sort of permissionless-ish one. So there will be a very expensive deployment fees, but the Karura Council will be able to waive the deployment fees for the teams. So we will be then onboarding a lot more smart contracts to the platforms, and then the third phase will basically reduce the deployment fee to very cheap, probably like maybe a few car tokens, and then everyone will be able to deploy the smart contracts.
Thanks for that. So yeah, teams working hard on the EVM Plus, and I wish I could show you guys kind of the internal peaks that we've gotten in our team, but coming soon. I think it's good time to move on to the next item, which is kUSD insurance cover. Betty, maybe you could add some color there.
Yeah, so again, I won't go into too much detail because otherwise there will also be a lot of too much information. But we're going to invite someone. So we have a new partner for the providing some individual insurance cover for the lending protocol. And that means, if you do lending for kUSD, then it can cover for a certain amount of liquidation. And then later on, we're also working with them to build some cover for liquid staking slashing as well. And also this project is also exploring to kind of build their multi-chain solution on Acala as well beyond that point. So that's going to be quite exciting. So we're working with them with a little bit more details, and then probably going to invite their owner to come along to do some AMAs and share more information with you guys regarding how those insurance work on the blockchain, and then how to come up with the insurance model, and then how you can actually get protected. And it's also something quite cool. They're protecting the address. Right, so if you're using the same account for multiple, say, lending protocols, they protect all of the supported protocols rather than buying cover, for individual smart contract or individual protocols. So that's quite an interesting way to do issuance. So yeah, so I think we will also probably invite them along to do some intro to their product and also do some AMA as well. So that's a fair side. So yeah.
Great. So we're about to move into our community call, our community Q&A portion. So I do see a few folks here who have requested to speak and join the stage. I'm going to invite you up. And then while we wait for them to join, I just want to encourage anyone who has a question to just go ahead and raise your hand. I'll invite you to stage, or you can type out your question in the community call chat and we'll get to it.
Yeah, so while we're waiting, I can also share a little bit more on where Karura is going as well. So I think folks seem to have this very divided view of Karura is on its own island, and then Acala is this separate thing that we don't know. But in reality, these two economies are tightly tied together if you look at it that way. And then Karura is always going to be a smaller economy compared to Acala, right? Because behind the scene, all the assets on Karura is going to be smaller than Acala. This is like KSM versus DAO, right? You have two different economy. And also at the same time, whatever technically goes on to Acala always goes through Karura, right? So Karura is getting the tech first. And also it has lesser restriction on certain things. And also allows different type of applications. So for applications, then certainly they don't need to deploy on Karura first, and they can deploy on Acala first if they really want to. And also applications don't need to always go to Acala. In the end, as the end goal, they could just ended up in Karura, right? So really, like if you look at these two, they really go hand in hand. If one economy goes really well, like if Acala goes really well, it has a huge sort of treasury. A portion of that probably go to the Karura treasury and also help bootstrap certain activities there. And then also some application, if they eventually deploy on Acala, they might look at Karura as, I want to come back to Karura and also serve the Karura community. So the two really go hand in hand. It's a little bit like a small boat and a big boat in the ocean. If the ocean water level goes up, the two goes up together. But it's just one boat is smaller and the other boat is bigger by nature. So and also having said that, because of the role that Karura plays, Acala is always going to be one of the biggest supporter of Karura, right? Both from how much the ACA is reserved for Karura, as well as the treasury. Once it's done, the build Acala treasury built, and some of those will also be allocated to Karura as well. So then that's how the water level rises, then both of the boat will actually rise together, right? So yeah, hopefully folks understand where this is going.
And we have a question in the chat that's wants us to confirm that we're still allocating 10% of the Acala Treasury to Karura. That was expressed in the Build Acala events. Is that right, Betty?
I think that's a maximum of 10%. Treasury to Karura, yes. So basically what might happen is we when we do the donation event, right? So for folks who didn't have the context, so we decided from the get-go to donate the entire proceed from the To Build Acala event, the public sale, into the Acala treasury. So the 2 million is going to be on-chain. On the Acala network. And that means whoever has got ACA and voting power, they have collective stewardship of that fund and how that fund, first and foremost, obviously, the collective interest is to ensure the parachain can continue to be rented and won for the foreseeable future. That's the baseline. Beyond that, though, this treasury we can grow them together, and then the ACA holders, in one way or another, someone brought up. There's an interesting post. Yeah, I was looking at that as well. And it kind of find a way to have the token holders have exposure to the treasury growth and things like that. So we've done it that way, and then that also means maximum of 10% of that can also go back into the Karura treasury, and then maybe do something similar there as well, or maybe the treasury decided to do exactly a different thing on the Karura network. That's also fine. It's up to what people wanted to do. So hopefully that clears the cloud, and yeah.
So I do see we added a community member to stage here. If you want to go ahead with your question.
Yeah, thanks. So over the last 6 months, we saw that not that much assets were integrated into Karura DEX. So my question is, will the process of the integration be somewhat eased? And I know there is technical problems with the XMP and all of the stuff, but I'm just curious if it will be easier to add new parachain to the Karura DEX in the future, and if yes, how long will it take to see these improvements? Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good question. And I think we can be quite honest here, right? So when we first started building on Polkadot, that was 2.5 years ago. We obviously, as one of the people who actually believe that the world is going to turn out to be a network of blockchains, like this Web3 vision that Polkadot is actually doing, not just saying, but actually doing. And the tech is actually completely different stack compared to what Gavin built on Ethereum. And when it comes to today, when we launch finally 2 years later, but for the Polkadot tech, it's still at a very, very early stage. To be very honest, the Karura launch, the XCM, the cross-chain stuff, is not exactly what we anticipated. However, we understand, that the tech has still got a little bit of way to go because parachain to parachain communication, and then also how the parachains can be easily not just transferring token, but can also be composing together to build more dApps on top of it very easily. The UX is not as what we anticipated from day one, right? We kind of anticipated from day one, not just the tech, but also the UX is already there. But of course, now it turns out, the UX we still need to continue to build, and that's what Web3 and then Parity and then some other ecosystem projects are fighting through their way to do that as well. But those are mostly just you need time to just build that. I think the technical side of it's kind of proven because since Karura is being launched for such a long time, nothing catastrophic has happened. The XCM actually works really well in terms of the Internet of Blockchain sort of tag, as well as the asset transfers between chains are working. And the thing that needs to be improved is the how they actually compose between the parachain assets as well as their utility, right? So I think this is just a reality. When you're working on super advanced tech, it's just a wave that we have to take. But having said that, though, the lessons we learned from Karura is invaluable. That just means while as I guess for the Polkadot side of it, it has to go that way, right? Because you can't just patch things and then wait until you're exploded and then you come back and patch it. It doesn't work that way. And then if you look at other ecosystem now, they start to use Polkadot technology, even Cosmos, Polygon, they now come back trying to patch their tech stack using exactly what Substrate and also what Gavin wrote on the Polkadot vision, right? But I think they're going to find a hard time to patch at such a low level. It's easy to patch at a very high level. If your app doesn't have this icon or doesn't have this UX, then you just add it, right? But if you need to patch an internet at the lowest level, good luck for that. But at the same time, we also recognize, because Karura and Acala is positioned as a application chain, application-specific chain. We still firmly believe that. And then while others are all rushing into generalized EVM chain. This is the reality, right? Because of the model of Binance smart contract chain, even though there's people challenge that at the beginning, but the reality is people see it becomes this snowball effect. Once the Binance smart contract chain is up and running and goes really well, people see that we can live with a mainframe computer for now, and then just keep copy and pasting exactly the same tag, exactly the same farming model, just go on and on and on and on until the curve drops down to the tail end, and then what drives the next curve is real innovation, right? So we surely recognize that as sort of what's happening on the market. So we need to do two things, right? At least what we believe we need to do two things. One is this vision of application-specific chain and also Internet of Blockchain is we are very, very much believe in that, and it also proven out the tech actually works. It just takes time. So that's the long-term vision of Acala and Karura, where it's going, because it's application-specific. Takes us to hi-fi to really bring in new players in a game. Not just the DeFi farmers, but also be able to serve people beyond that, individuals and institutions and non-farmers, non-crypto people. So in the long run, that doesn't change. From day one, we had that assumption. I think after 2.5 years building, we have more conviction that this is going to work out that way in the long run. And then the second thing we need to do is what happened in the short term. And that's also why in the short term, we just need to survive on our own chain with the KSM and DOT ecosystem together. And what that means is you can see us in the chat. I posted a screenshot, right? You can see us bridging out into other ecosystems. We are good friends with Solana, Terra, some of the Ethereum folks, and also other ecosystem as well. So we're going to bring in them to play with us together. So this bridges launch as our next highest priority on Karura. And then to start sort of the asset import and export, and then also open up some of the applications as well as some other ways that we can actually bootstrap ourselves while we are waiting for some of the tech on the XCM side, the cross-chain side, to be built out and the UX to be improved. So so hopefully this sort of immediate term as well as the long term is gonna carry all of us together. So I think the thing is for it, if you're holding KR, right? So you are part of the ecosystem to not only become just a user, but also finding ways to to support us, give us ideas, and then also build out this ecosystem together. So as for Acala, right? So so it's going to be a long ride. We're here for the long term, but also a lot of things are happening in a very, very short term and immediate term as well. So
okay, cool. Thanks.
Thanks for the question. Let's move over to Bob.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I have a question for Beta, actually, and I want to go back to the treasury aspect of the situation. So Acala has 2 million DOT right now in the treasury, and if I heard correctly, that 10% will be used to help the Karura network. Why so? If the community actually have a say in that, is there any vote already put in place? Why should Karura get part of the proceeds coming from Acala?
Oh, yeah, sure. So so this was part of the Build Acala program that we set out. I think you can go on to info.acala.network to read about the event. If you were part of the event, it was quite clear when the event was started, that was part of the deal that we put in. Because ultimately, when a foundation does a public sale, the proceeds all goes to foundation, right? So, and then as part of the foundation that we kind of put up that proposal to say, the foundation proceed, we keep nothing, all goes into the two networks the foundation helped build. One is the Karura and the other is Acala. Yeah.
Okay, that's. I think I need to read back and then check why actually. It looks like to me, Karura. That is, I didn't participate in Karura, but my focus should be totally on ACA, and I think that is the main thing because Karura is just a test net. and people want to see things, moving fast also on the main, product, which is Acala for me.
Yeah, so I think if you hold ACA, you should care more about Karura as well, because the tech wouldn't move to Acala without Karura. Without Karura, the stuff that you use on Acala wouldn't be as good, right? So you actually want Karura to be successful and also to go really well at the same time. So that's why the two have a very close tie, economy as well as the tech as well. So yeah. It is very different from other ecosystem where everyone is just like working on their own island. And then now you basically have two networks that are closely hand in hand and support each other.
Yeah, take an example of Polkadot and Kusama. There's a very similar thing. Like the fact we have Karura is also modeling the similar, is following the similar model of Polkadot and Kusama. So Polkadot also reserve 1% of the total dot supply for the Kusama. So while we are not exactly copying that, but yeah, it's but at least the Polkadot ecosystem, Polkadot community believes help building Kusama is at the best interest of the Polkadot as well, because they're sharing exactly the same code, the same tech stack, and then Kusama have more aggressive parameters to allow to experiment upper limits of Polkadot. For example, taking the power chains. The policy for Polkadot currently is that Polkadot is not the maximum number of power chain Polkadot going to have is the 75% of the Kusama. So we will always know the number on the Polkadot is going to work because we already tried that on Kusama. So similar thing will happen on the Acala and Karura. So we'll be able to experiment new codes, new features, and maybe with more aggressive parameters on the Karura. And once it's proven working, and then we'll be able to deploy it on Acala, and knowing that it's going to work because we already have tried that before. So I think it makes total sense for Acala to help Karura to be secure and safe. So we are able to do those experiments on the Karura.
Great context. Yeah, I always try to avoid saying testnet for when speaking about Kusama or Karura, because it's really kind of an innovation, like experimental playground. Like, we have these faster parameters, we have this thriving, like bold community, and Karura and Acala are we expect will be going in their own independent directions while coexisting and of course working toward interoperability and composability amongst each other. So this huge Acala Karura ecosystem, I guess I would just say it's worth it to me to be a part of both communities and see how they work together. With that in mind, I do want to share that we do have a Crowdcast event happening tomorrow in regards to Acala's launch process and launch update. I'm just going to share the link here in the community called Whiteboard and encourage you guys to tune in for that. It's going to happen in about 24 hours, and we'll have some specific details regarding the Acala launch update and community. And of course, we'll see how that you'll be able to see how that affects Karura as well. And then it looks like we got some more questions like trickling into the community call chat, but I don't see any other hands raised for the stage. So I think that's a great place to end it. We'll be live in the chat for a while answering questions, and thank you everyone for taking the time to kick off the new year with us. If you have anything on your mind, feel free to ping us, and I appreciate everybody attending. Thank you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Brian. Take care.